Top 10 first baseman of 2025. This list is purely based on the performance they had this season. Who were the actual top 10 first basemen this year? And we got to also compare this to our preseason top 10 list. Before we get to the actual top 10, we got to look at the guys we put in the preseason top 10 that actually were not all that good and didn't make the top 10 first baseman list. Starting with Michael Toglia, our preseason top 10. This it's about as bad as it could get. He got sent down to the minor leagues. Absolute disaster of a season. He was kind of in a position to where he was either going to break out or collapse. I mean, he had very encouraging stats like his expected WOBA, his slugging, his barrel rate were some of the best in the league, but there were also concerning things like his strikeout rate, which only went up. I mean, he struck out about 30% of the time in 2024 and then started striking out about 40% of the time in 2025, so things just went the wrong way for him this year. Another guy outside of the top 10 this year that I had in the preseason top 10 was Vinny Pasquantino. Now, he barely missed the top 10. He had a very good season, over 30 home runs and a 116 WRC plus for him. Now, my preseason number 8 was Yandy Diaz. He also is not a top 10 first baseman, primarily because he is a DH now. He only played 37 games at first, so really just didn't even take the time to compare him to the other first baseman on this list. He'll be over on the DH list when we come to that point. Now, my preseason number 5 was Christian Walker. This one obviously went terribly wrong for the Houston Astros. Maybe he tried to play through some injuries. Maybe it was just a down year. Maybe it's his age catching up to him. Or maybe there's just a curse on first basemen that play for the Astros. I don't know. Either way, Christian Walker was not a top 10 first baseman this year. Now, let's get around to the actual top 10 list, starting with the 10th best first baseman of the 2025 season, and that was Wilson Contreras. He wasn't completely healthy this season. He played 135 games, which is a solid amount. His bat was a little below what we expect from him, but still a 124 WRC plus. That's kind of what we've learned is that's kind of the Contreras floor, right? 120 WRC plus is the floor, 140 is the ceiling. And he kind of just bounces around in that range. This was one of the lower years, along with a couple missed games. But on the positive side too, he plays incredible defense. He scored 70, drove in 80, and that was with limited time playing and playing on a terrible offense. The number 9 first baseman of the 2025 season was Jonathan Aranda. Now, what a breakout year for Aranda. He played incredible, and he would have been much higher on this list, but he only played 106 games, so it kind of limited his productivity and the quantity of value that he could give his team, only playing that many games. But he hit 316, he had a 146 WRC plus. If he can just stay on the field a little bit more in 2026, he's going to be way up there on this list. The number 8 first baseman of the 2025 season was Bryce Harper, our preseason number 2. Now, I think this has a lot to do with injuries for Harper. I think he tried to play through some stuff. He really didn't look like himself for a good chunk of the season. He was good as always, but really not the normal Harper standard. It was his lowest WRC plus since 2019, yet it was still a 131 WRC plus, which is still really good. So he was still a top 10 first baseman this year, but clearly limited and not at his best. Now, the number 7 first baseman of the 2025 season was Pete Alonso. Also was our preseason number 7. A 141 WRC plus with 48 home runs. The production is where he always takes off. Possibly one of the most clutch run producers in the entire league. I mean, 126 RBIs is a massive step up from really everybody else on the list to this point. Now, the downside is a 102 bases created plus kind of shows his limitations, not all that great on defense. Number 6 first baseman of 2025 is Josh Naylor, who stole 30 bases. I have no idea how he did it. He also had a 128 WRC plus, and he also is a very clutch hitter when it comes to getting runs in, hitting at the most important times, and driving in runs. Also this year, he got his batting average back up. We saw a few years ago, I think it was 2023, he was hitting over 300. And then he hit 240 in 2024, which, I mean, that's a massive drop off from hitting over 300. And then this year, he got that back up into the 290s on the batting average side, which is big for him. Shows he's really clicking. Then the number 5 first baseman of the 2025 season was Freddie Freeman of the Los Angeles Dodgers. He was our preseason number 4. Incredibly close to Josh Naylor in a lot of ways. They both hit 295, had about 80 runs scored, 90 RBIs. Freddie does play better defense, though. He also has the advantage with more extra base hits, more walks. But outside of that, these two are actually incredibly close. The number 4 first baseman of 2025 was Michael Busch of the Chicago Cubs. He had a 140 WRC plus, a 126 bases created plus, 34 home runs with solid defense. It was a great year for Michael Busch, and he was a massive part of the Cubs' successful year. Now, the number 3 first baseman of the 2025 season was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., our preseason number 1. Now, for Vladdy, the power dropped a little bit this year, and overall just not as great as his 2024 year. But he's still one of the most threatening presences at the plate in the entire league. He was tied for the 3rd highest WAR among all first basemen this year. He hit 292, and his defense was better than what we've seen from him in the past. But then the number 2 first baseman of the 2025 season, another guy who was not on our preseason top 10, was Nick Kurtz. Honestly, was not even on my radar at the beginning of the year, but he was the best hitting first baseman in the entire game in 2025. It wasn't particularly close. Fortunately for him, though, we are looking for the best first baseman in totality of value throughout the season. And unfortunately for him, he barely played over half the season and still got himself to this point on the list. I mean, in those 117 games, he outperformed everybody that we've talked about so far. I mean, Vladdy and Freeman have 3.9 WAR, and he has 4.6. Like, that's not even close. He had 36 home runs. His WRC plus was 170. Nobody else comes close to that. And 144 bases created plus. Again, no first baseman is in that range. He was an absolute menace at the plate this year. But the number 1 first baseman for the 2025 season was Matt Olson of the Atlanta Braves. Now, this might be a little shocking because he had a bit of a quiet year. I mean, any year he doesn't hit 50 home runs, people really don't talk about him all that much. He was the only person with more WAR than Nick Kurtz. He had 4.7. And I'm not making this list off of WAR. That is not how this is being calculated or done. And if I told you that he didn't even hit 30 home runs, you would probably just say he had a down year. There's no way he was that great. But a 136 WRC plus is very good, and it's right there with the likes of Vladdy and Freddie Freeman. He had over 90 runs scored, he had over 90 RBIs, and while his bat is incredibly comparable to the other top first basemen in the league, like Freeman and Vladdy, not quite to the level of Kurtz's bat, it's Olson's defense, though, that really pushes him over the top and secures the number 1 spot on this list for him. Because while he hits as well as Vladdy and Freeman and those guys, he plays defense on a whole nother level. That's what made him the best first baseman in all of baseball during the 2025 season. Obviously, with a few more games from Nick Kurtz, things might flip around a little bit, but Kurtz didn't have those games in 2025, and this list is not a projection. The projection list will come out later this year, so make sure you are following for that.